if you have it stored up here, you need to work to getting it all out on paper. What is this step-by-step process? And what is this journey I'm going to take my client on to get them to success?
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And boy, there's some big problems. I won't even get
into that.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody give a simultaneous big, heavy sigh. I've got clients that are like, I don't know what to do, but we want to do it. There's so much irony in government federal contracting right now that I find myself in without going down the political hole, because we need to have a whiskey.
You'd put me to sleep. I've been up too early today. Yeah.
Nah, y'all know me. I don't go political. It's more of a objective perspective that I have of you ask for it, now you get the results. So
I can fill in the blank there. But hey, all the big problems. What do you do with big problems? Focus on what you can control in them. All right, that's it.
Right. Jessica, what are you controlling besides putting your dog outside your office? What are you controlling right now?
Well, that I cannot control because he'll probably dig his way back into the office.
As long as he's not like Camden's dogs and starts barking at you outside.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll see.
We got this dog. My sister's a vet. She was like, "You got to come get this dog. You got to come get this dog." We went and got the dog. The dog is a cat. It jumps on the counters.
Oh my God.
And if it's not watched, but then like 2 weeks, I jump on one of these podcasts or a meeting or something, and I forgot that he was outside. He literally was trying to dig through the door to get back into the house. And
oh my gosh.
Our seal, our door. Yeah. Lesson learned. Don't leave.
You send the bill to your sister.
Yes.
At least. Oh yeah, I was gonna say at least he's on the smaller side there, because Dad, Beefy, rest in peace, Hudson. He ate a wall once in college.
Oh my God.
Because that's a big old English bull mastiff, and when he got stuck in a room, he just ate the drywall. A little bit more damage there. Not fun. Segue out of that.
You know what my solution is for dogs like that? I go down Old Yeller. That's my solution for dogs.
Oh no, sir!
I got a whole lot of space for that.
Hey, our first dog, we set a budget for their lifespan.
I love it. Hey, I don't know about y'all. I grew up, dogs were a tool. They weren't. They weren't comfort items. They weren't in the house. They were out back, because where do I keep my tools? I keep my tools in the garage. I don't keep them in my bedroom. Mm-hmm. So that's the world that I grew up in, folks. Not this. Like I said, here's another path, another rabbit hole I could go down. Because I got some opinions on that too.
Well, it's interesting. When you
grow
up with animals, you have a different perspective of like ownership, where if you grow up with them as a pet, because we grew up with horses, rabbits, chickens. We grew up on a small ranch. And so we knew the purpose of the animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was just going to say, Dad, keep talking. And, I'm going to let Lukey and Gumbo go get into your casita back there in the yard. All of a sudden, it's not going to be dog free. Someone's going to be sneezing back there.
Yeah. My kryptonite, as much as I love dogs and dogs have a great purpose, my kryptonite is dogs, because I'm allergic to them. So,
especially Lukey, apparently.
Yeah, and his
whether it's the pit bull or just that he likes to lay on top of you.
Not have dogs, because my husband uses the same excuse for cats.
Well, I'm allergic to cats too, so Hey, that's life, though. I tell you what, boy, we're going down some rabbit holes today. Eventually, I'll circle us back around.
We'll get there.
You know what? Everybody jumps through hoops for goddamn peanuts. I was checking the time because I was about to say the effing peanuts. Everybody jumps through hoops. Peanuts. I can't have peanuts on the goddamn airplane anymore because somebody might be allergic to them. But they can sure as hell put a dog next to me on an airplane. What's the math on that, folks? Oh, well, Otis, you're allergic to dogs. Sorry, man. Right. But if I had a peanut, eat a peanut butter and jelly next to somebody, I'm a bad person. Boy, y'all push the button on me. We're all talking about politics and then dogs as tools, and now
we started off with big problems. I
know. Well, these are big problems. So, but bringing it around the problems, I want to know because we were talking about this because I love this subject because everybody thinks it's what you should do. Protecting your IP, Jessica. And what I mean by that, because I had a friend of mine teach me this lesson years ago, shortly after I'd retired from the Army and I'm into the business world, right? Everything costs. And I called up a friend of mine and I said, hey, man, can you introduce me to XYZ? Because I was working for a company and he has a group of people that are part of his organization that I wanted to be introduced to start some business. And he told me, I'm going to do this for you because you're a personal friend of mine, but the company that you work for is not part of the organization that I'm running. And the organization that I'm running makes money off of bringing those people together. And since you're on the outside looking in, you're not making us any money by me doing this introduction. And I was like, And I turned it into my metaphor. I'm coming back to you, Jessica. Patience, young lady. Is, you know what? If I own that 7-Eleven, Jessica walks in every afternoon on the way home and grabs a 6-pack of beer and says, thanks, Otis, walks out. That's the same thing, right? I'm giving it away for free. So I want to dive into that because what you do in the marketing world is people look at it like that, like grabbing that 6-pack out of your 7-Eleven. How do you handle that?
How do I handle it?
Because you're a nice person. I'll vouch for that. She is, folks. She is nice. She is.
Well, one, if you're talking to those people that just want to grab the 6-pack and leave, you're not talking to the right people. So it was learning to get off of those calls quickly, being polite about it, giving them some advice. Usually my go-to is your Google business profile. And let's all be clear. We're usually talking about the startup businesses that are looking to wheel and deal to get, and it's perfectly, completely fine. You got to start somewhere. But at the same time, with those startups, they shouldn't be focusing on all these different marketing aspects. They should be focusing on their most viable product and going and selling that. And now once you can go sell that 10, 20 times, now come talk to me, because now we can have a conversation about turning your website or your conversations into a website experience, that is what is going to convert customers for them.
How do you tell the people, or not literally how do you tell them you don't want to work with them? You already kind of touched that a little bit, but more so, how do you tell those folks apart from the people who are actually, to go back to the 6-pack, who are going to pay for the darn beer?
rephrase the question. So how?
Yeah,
how
no, I touched back to his analogy, which messed it up there. But no, the just of how do you tell the difference between the folks who are actually serious, are willing to pay, willing to actually do the work, whatever it is, versus the people who are just going to take and looking for the free calls and get another, like we were joking about before, the green room, like the free coaching call and then one more free coaching call and then one more, and just kind of keep taking. How do you tell those folks apart from the folks who are, get on the free coaching call and they're going to buy?
It's a different type of conversation. When you're going into those calls, they're asking for advice. When you're talking to someone that knows it's not their job to execute on the service you provide, they're asking, okay, what is the process? How are we going to do this? What is your vision? And does your vision align with my vision? These are my business goals. Can we get our business to that space with your services? It's a completely different conversation. When you're talking to startups, they're kind of still hem-hawing around, trying to find that answer, trying to find that silver bullet, where if you're talking to the level up, they know their business. Now they're just trying to find the tools and the people that will help support them and get them to where they want to go.
That's a great point. So it's recognizing that it's the desperation, right? You recognize that they're desperate, and that desperation is here's my token for your 1 hour free consultation, and you can use it today or you can use it in a month, but that's it. You get that token sort of thing, right?
Yeah. And I mean,
that's growth on your part too, though, is getting to that.
Yeah. But I mean, there's even businesses and clients still today, they come and consult. Some of them, I love them and I will jump on a call and bend over backwards for them. There's others that I'm like,
I know.
Let's set some boundaries here. I had to do this with a client this past month where he just kept on texting me, asking me for advice. And so finally I said, okay, I'm willing to help you and give you advice, but you need to send me an email once a month with all your questions, and I will answer them at that point. We're not doing this texting on the weekend anymore. We're not doing this because I run 2 businesses. I don't have time for specifically answering every little question that pops into your head and is a reactionary text to me.
What a great idea. I love that. What a great way to tell them without saying, hey, look, just leave me the hell alone, or ignoring them, which doesn't feel good either, right?
Yeah.
And then ignoring them. Just, hey, yeah, why don't you just put that all into a message on the 30th of the month, and then, or the 31st, because then it only happens every so often, right? What is that only?
Well, the other thing, the clients that are like that, they usually know their answer. You just have, how many times have you had a client that's come and asked you a question, and it's not because you didn't want to respond right away, but you were busy, and so you're like, I'll come back to it. And then 2 hours later, they're like, oh, never mind, I figured it out.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just have to give time, space for people to think it through.
I was going to ask, as much as, like saying, I like that as a mechanism there. I'm very curious how often people actually send you that monthly email.
I haven't heard from him yet, so I might have hurt his feelings.
And that's because what I was kind of getting to is,
and send the email.
Even when boundaries are healthy and it makes sense, and it's not disagreeable in any way, it can still feel weird to have somebody put those boundaries on you. So that would be my guess there with that. Even as much as I still think that's a great way to put it, because it's like, hey, I'm still going to help you, but here's the spot I want to help you.
Yeah, and at the end of this month, which is the 25th, so I need to go remember to do this, I'm going to text him and be like, okay, what were your questions of SEOs that I can help you address, and let's go through it all together at once, kind of thing. So it's also protecting your time. Time is money. Yeah. So
I think there's an interesting thing here of, because in that you're calling it desperation. I think there's an element of that. What I kept going back to is just curiosity, and I think that there's this very real thing that is being curious about what the best route is. Wanting to learn, And then, well, the best way to learn is just to talk to people. Well, Jessica knows a lot, so I'll just talk to her. And I think that you can get to that in a much less, malicious, I guess, way. But by understanding that that's how people are getting to it, that's how you get to a solution like you're talking about there, Jessica, of it's like, well, think about the questions for a little bit. Because if I'm just trying to get some quick advice, yeah, I could call someone up and they could tell me real quick. But at the same time, if I got to wait a week, if I got to wait 2 days, if I got to wait a month, I can Google it. I can go to ChatGPT. I could, there's the other things that I could do, and I'm going to come up with a pretty darn good solution myself with that. And I think that's the big key there is understanding, where they're coming from, why they're looking that way. And that's why those kind of that path works for them,
Yeah. There are a lot of people when they first start their business, they're just trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So they're talking to as many people as they need to talk to get it figured out. But sometimes when you talk to so many people, you get so much information. And you said ChatGPT. That's the one thing I like about ChatGPT. You can go in and ask it a question and it will take everyone's answers from the internet and kind of compile it into a concise answer. If you don't like that answer, you change your question and it will give you another answer.
And I agree with you 100% on that. And we actually at Tribe and Purpose, we use a tool called Boodle AI. And it's been great for those sort of questions. And truthfully, if I wasn't quite so lazy, I'd probably use it a lot more for my internet searches because of the responses.
The inertia of Google is going to keep them around with that inferior product compared to a ChatGPT option for a while with that, because they got the verb. That's what happens when you get the verb. You can look at Uber, same kind of thing. Like Uber could be significantly worse than Lyft. They're not gonna go away because they got the verb. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Jessica, I want to have you had any of those folks? Because I'll share with you my opinion or my experience in this. Any of those folks that were kind of like trying to get the freebie, a little too many freebies, ever convert to a paying client?
I don't know. I've been doing this a long time. Not recently, I will say. Not recently. I haven't had anyone. Sometimes what I will do is I'll start them off on a smaller plan. So, hey, and I would do this with my nonprofit, my younger nonprofits a lot. I have a special place in my heart for nonprofits. I'd say, okay, let's just start you off on this small plan. Let's get you going, get you moving. And we would get them up and running. Once they got the funding, they would come back and say, okay, now we're ready to take this to the next level. So not necessarily giving them the free stuff, but giving them a smaller stepping stone to get their foot wet. And then, okay, we trust you even more. Can you take this on for us? I stopped giving free stuff away a long time ago. It doesn't work because you're not setting an expectation.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the boundaries we were talking about just a minute ago, because they just keep texting you, keep calling you, keep setting up another appointment. And I was kind of reflecting as you were also, and trying to think of any that ever converted from the freebies to the paying, and no. In the
I think
10 plus years I've been doing this. Yeah. No.
I was going to say, I'm curious then, kind of, maybe it's a little bit playing devil's advocate based on the way the conversation's flowing, but, the idea of the free sample, the free coaching, whatever it is, there's clearly a value there of, putting it up as, hey, here's the thing to come get people in the door, right? But then at the same time, just like y'all talking about the people who just want the freebies, or, the people who are looking for the deal and they're never going to buy a single thing extra, you're getting them in the door, but their guard is up because they know you're going to try to upsell them. Those, same kind of idea there. there's still the value to that mechanism. So I guess my thought with that is you just kind of, spitballing here, but how do you walk that line of still having something to bring people in the door, still having that kind of a mechanism, if you will, without opening yourself up to the people who are just going to come in and, eat all your free samples? Jessica, I'll throw that to you, and Dad, you could jump in after.
Well, I mean, I think you have a clear line of what are we doing for free for marketing purposes versus the people that are just coming in and asking us for advice. So if I run a workshop, that's a freebie, but I'm using that to get my name out in front of people. Usually it's in exchange for an email, so I can continue staying in front of them, so I can continue nurturing them throughout the system. And then maybe one day I offer something, or a light bulb goes off in their head and they say, hey, I need to go talk to Jessica about this. Because we're having this issue, this problem right here and right now. So I think it's clearly defining that line between, hey, we're doing this freebie for marketing purposes versus we're doing this freebie just to hand it out. You don't want to be the handout.
Right. And I think that's, that's something we do at Tribe and Purpose also with our, our monthly master classes and things like that. And,
the show.
This show is huge. I mean, technically, I'm going to call Donnie out since Donnie's a friend of ours, a common friend of ours. We don't do what Donnie does, or at least what he did to me, which is coach me. Puts me on his podcast and says, "Coach me, Otis. You're uncoachable, Donnie. Go do push-ups. That kind of,
you can't tell him to do push-ups. Donnie loves push-ups. Come on, Donnie.
I told him to go feed his goats. Is what I told him.
Hey,
he loves that too.
So we're neighbors. He's threatened to throw goats in my backyard. So I'm like,
oh yeah,
that's his threat. Whenever I step out of line, I'm like, okay.
Yep. Y'all better be nice to Donnie because I wouldn't want. Well, I don't know. I could use some mowing.
I tried to work
a
deal where it was rent a baby goat. Didn't fly. No.
He wouldn't do that.
No.
Of course.
He's a shrewd businessman. You couldn't get that goat for free. See, we're circling back around.
There you go.
He's like, no, goats cost.
But, talking about giving it back for free, then I think there's an interesting piece. Jessica, you mentioned, like emails, newsletter, that kind of thing. Dad, we were kind of talking about like the podcast, masterclasses, workshops, all that kind of stuff there. There's also this element then of if what I'm selling is just all that's up here and I'm going out giving that free stuff away, it's hard to draw that line as well. And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, Jessica, of the like, if I put it all out for free, then nobody's going to pay for anything because I already coached them on all of it. Or, that kind of a logic there. What have been your thoughts with working through that?
I think there's a mindset of, hey, it's all up here. But what you have to realize is that everything up here is a system and process you created to streamline a person to success. So it's something that you have created and you're selling. If it's all up here and it's not in a system and process, now you're not scalable. Now you're not able to bring that business in. So if you have it stored up here, you need to work to getting it all out on paper. What is this step-by-step process? And what is this journey I'm going to take my client on to get them to success?
And to kind of just put that, to application there, basically you're talking, brain dump, get everything out there. Okay, here's my coaching program, here's my marketing program, whatever it is. And then it's then all of this is the stuff I can do for content. All of this is the free stuff. You have that clear separation. Is that what you're talking about there?
Yeah. And there's several coaches that I talk to and they're like, yeah, I coach. I'm like, okay, what is your mechanism? What is your mechanism? What is your tool that you give your clients to get them to success? Yeah, we know you can answer the right questions, but once you can say, hey, I coach through such and such method, or I coach through this mechanism, that's when light bulbs start going off and people start resonating with you and identifying, hey, this process is going to work for my business.
Mm-hmm. And then that makes it an easier line to draw too. Talking about drawing that line in your content, because then it is, you have the system over here, and then that's more just topics, ideas, conversational stuff. So that completely makes sense there. With that, then my thought is the communication aspect there is interesting to me, because then there's this aspect of, teasing the program, it's still, you got to market that program that we're talking about, but then there's still the free stuff we're putting out there. I think that's an interesting piece of where to draw those lines. Like every now and then it's nice to pull back the curtain and go, look at this really cool thing that I have over here, shut the curtain back and, go back to the free stuff. What are your thoughts on that aspect of the balance?
So I always say that you have your long-term marketing programs and you always have your short-term marketing programs. Okay. Long-term, you're nurturing. Short-term, those are the things that you're using to ramp up, to launch something, to release something into a market. So a good, easy example to grasp on, we're starting a cohort for coaching, a group community. We're going to use a campaign of that steps the price up as we get to the launch, to use the aspect of fear of missing out and price to get them in the door. But while we're doing this short campaign, then we're going to go back and continue nurturing everyone along the way. So they continue to know, like, and trust. Because if you just do all these short campaign bursts, now you're missing on the know, like, and trust, and you just become the sleazy salesperson.
It's the flash, right? It's the shiny object. What's it's the program of the month, even, because we've all seen those folks that, well, not just those folks, even in. I'm thinking like products, like all the emails I get from, a couple of my favorite things like Untuck It and Poncho. And it's like every other week there's some other sale. So, those sort of things that they lose in my book, for me personally, they lose the FOMO aspect of it, because, right, it's the,
it'll come back.
Yeah. I didn't want to spend $100 this week. So I'll just wait until they run the next sale in, 60 days, 90 days, or 30 days even, right?
Yeah. And I mean, every time you subscribe to some SaaS company, that if you start to unsubscribe, we'll start throwing deals your way.
Yes, as well as Xfinity or cable or Dish or whatever. Throw those things out there, because them sons of bitches do the same thing. So, I didn't know you were going to leave, Jessica. Well, we got this great package.
Look, now that we're talking. Talking about nurturing there, I'm curious, Jessica, what do you think is something that businesses miss on the side of nurturing? We kind of talked about content, newsletter stuff. What do you think people are generally missing in their approach to nurturing?
So with marketing, everything comes around in circles, and you have to look what's going on in the economy. Right now, we just came out of COVID. That was a heavy internet-based. Everyone was throwing up their funnels. Everyone was doing anything they could to get business, because it was like human connection was cut off. We're still living in a world where now people are thriving on that human connection. And so hyper-personalization in 2025 is still going to be a strong contender of building these relationships. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the second half of 2024, sales were unpredictable. But the people that were able to continue on as normal were the people that had built relationships. And were continuing to look not just outside, but internally into their clients. You also saw a lot of businesses, because of the sales issue, like they couldn't convert sales, starting to look at acquiring business for new businesses to bring new business into the door. So business moves with the economy. And so you have to look at what's going on with the economy, try to get ahead of that gap, and be like, okay, how are people going to be responding in the future because such and such happened 2 months ago or something like that.
Well, yeah, I had this conversation with somebody yesterday. I can't remember. It may have been Dina. Dang, where did her name go? Oh, I had it just a second ago. Dina Russo.
Okay,
I don't know.
awesome.
Yeah, I think you know Dina. Super awesome lady. And we were talking about writing books and how AI, people don't write books. There's a lot of books out there, folks. Hello, Mr. Naive. A lot of books out there that people didn't write. They put in some prompts and told Mr. AI to write it for them. They're ghost
sponsored by Boodle. We got to call them about that.
Yeah, Sean, you better be paid up. That's 2 mentions. But I'd love to explore that whole how AI is changing the shape of what you do with the super sticky websites and marketing strategy, and how is that effect coming into your world?
So it mainly affects content. It's kind of, in a way, shortcut it. But we don't completely shortcut it. Whenever we bring in a new client for a website, we're jumping on a call with them for 90 minutes and just firing questions at them about their business. We're going through their mission, value, vision. We're going through how they came to be, what it was their journey. We're talking about their conversations that they have with their customers, their objections, all these things that are part of their business. And then we take that and we're actually putting it into AI saying, give us a synopsis. Instead of having a copywriter having to download, listen, read the whole transcription, we now have a summary. And then if they need to go back and listen to a specific part to capture the tone of the client, we have that recording and we can, okay, we need to bring this voice and style into our writing. And it's made it easier for our SEO advisors as well, because we give them a summary. They don't have to go through all the whole discovery session, and they can go, okay, they're targeting this, this, and this. They're wanting to move here, here, and here. Here are the keywords we need to use to get them to this point. So it's shortcut a lot of the process of being able to analyze what we have to bring it back out and create an output for it.
Have you been able to quantify it? Just curious, because I know we use a couple of tools that, Camden, I think it was Opus. Camden, you told me that saves you 8 hours a week.
Well, we outsourced it also, but that was a full-time job for me when I was pumping out content, pretty much.
Right.
What I can say is it's a lot less back and forth with a copywriter. So the copywriter will send it to me. And instead of saying, hey, can you tweak it here? Can you tweak it there? I can take a section that a copywriter has sent to me and say, okay, this is close, but let's make it more gritty, or let's make it more salesy. And it will change this tone and style of it to where I do not have to keep on going back and forth with a writer.
So the interesting thing, and Dad, you use the book comparison, talking about people writing and using AI for that. The thing that happens with that, then, at least in my opinion, is it kind of waters down the medium itself. This has crossed my mind. Not that my book is anywhere close to being published, or finished. Sorry, don't even talk published. Not even close to being finished. But at the same time, I've had that thought of it's like, well, what's the value to that if somebody could just plug in a bunch of stuff into ChatGPT and pump out, obviously not the same book, but it waters it down. It waters down the value of even something that's not done with the AI. I'm curious what you think that kind of effect looks like in more of the marketing space. Like we mentioned, content. Opus is a great example. When I first started using Opus, the clips did really, really well. Then Opus blew up and they started running ads everywhere. Now everyone uses Opus, and I could spot every podcast that uses Opus, even though they use different colors and different stuff. Like, it's kind of devalued that a little bit. And so I'm curious what your thought is on that, like the best way to put it is like the proliferation of the AI makes it easier for people to get into it. So then there's more, the floor raises and there's more volume. So it kind of waters down even the good stuff. What's your thoughts there?
Well, when it comes to that, it's all based on the story. AI cannot create your story. They can fabricate a story for you. But if you put that story out and someone comes up and asks you about it, they're going to know 100% up that wasn't your story, because there will lack emotion from the story when you try to retell it. It's like the little kid that comes and tells you a lie. You know they're lying because there's gaps.
Yeah.
So that's where, yes, use AI, but you better be inserting your own story into and your own personality, and not just using it. And if it's visual, using your own styles, creating that branding, and no one can create that for you except you.
Well, this just popped into my head because I got a marketing email from Tony Robbins' team yesterday. He's running a new program, and I just kind of scanned through it because I like Tony. We go way back, and you know, it had a AI coaching tool that you could sign up for, and I thought, well, because that's stepping into a whole nother element, right? So if you take all Tony Robbins content, all Otis content, and you create a coaching bot, that's an interesting thing.
Have you heard the AI podcasts? Have you heard any of those, Dad? I've seen a couple of them.
I haven't watched any of them.
Yeah, I've seen a couple clips from AI ones of podcasts I watch that are pretty big, because you have we talked about, we just went over the 400 episode barrier. Like, we got 400 some odd hours probably of content out there. You could easily go through, especially on the voice level, replicate things, right? But it goes back to what Jessica was just saying: is there's a human component that is missing, those little gaps. Just like, you look at a picture, you see someone's hand or their foot, and you're like, oh, that's not real. There's those little things that aren't quite right. I think you get the same kind of thing visually. Or audio. I cannot think of that word. I'm just going to throw it to you, Dad, because that's making me feel real stupid right now. I couldn't think of that word.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, AI can only exist because of the content we create. So everyone is saying, hey, content's dead, blogging is dead, all this stuff is dead. But AI wouldn't exist if we didn't have this database of content. And so right now people are like, well, websites are dead. I'm like, no, they're not. Chatbots are coming back into play. They're able to read your website. If you're going to put content on your website, it probably needs to be knowledge base, so that bot isn't making up information, giving it out to your prospects, and then your prospect jumps on a call with you and is like, hey, yeah, your chatbot said you can do this and this and this. Sure, we can do that. We'll get right on that.
And guarantee it, right? So that's the great thing. I think that all of us as business owners, business people have to understand is, how do you stay in front of the curve? One of my favorite business strategy books back over there on the shelf is Blue Ocean Strategy. So how do you continue? Because I mean, there's a whole lot of marketing people out there. And now with, the perception, I'm going to call it perception, of AI replacing a lot of that. How do you stay in front with Buzzworks? How do you continue to be the differentiator with Buzzworks out there?
So the one reason the thing I like about websites is they haven't changed. They just have improved. So yes, it's about staying ahead of the market. But as I said, marketing is on repeat. What is happening in the environment and how do we respond to it in marketing? It's very much when we went through COVID, all of a sudden you started seeing all these funnel ad campaigns. No one was on their computer. Everyone was watching TV, clicking on an ad, going to a funnel page. What they did was they took the as seen on TV ads, repurposed it, put it in a digital format. Okay? So everything is just a repeat, and it's figuring out what is going on in the current life and current situation, and then applying marketing tactics. Sometimes it's going back into the old and bringing it into the new, or sometimes it's using that flashy trend to grab the attention.
Are you telling me that I need on the bottom shelf down here, I got Miss Suzanne's Marketing 101 book from Texas A&M. It's not stone, it's paper.
Let's take it, throw it into ChatGPT and see what it comes up with.
You're probably right. I should.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
What's old is new, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think, sorry, Dad, I'm going to call you. I think you've made that joke before, talking with another marketing folk. But that's all right. Good jokes come back. But no, the thing that comes to mind is, like you're saying, Jessica, that it's the same machine. You're just adjusting it to the different times and the current situation. The thing that comes to mind for me is the value of authenticity with that. Whether, going back to the storytelling and having that genuine authenticity with it, it helps you to tell that story. You can actually tell the story there. And I think that as much as people might want to get pessimistic with the AI and the watering down, like I was talking about, I think if you look back at similar trends, whether social media, TV, or wherever you want to look, you can see the same kind of different things happen. There's plenty of copycat stuff on social media of a guy who was doing something funny with Instagram and everyone else started doing it. Well, they're not all going to reach that level because they don't have the authenticity of it. If somebody else could start a 10 Extra Team podcast, they could have the father-son thing, and they're not going to have the same charm that we do. There's always like an aspect of that, especially if there's AI. But then I think the interesting thing is I was thinking back to the idea of podcast ad sales. I heard a podcast, of course, Freakonomics was talking about it at one point. And they were talking about how specifically, like with women, a lot of traditional targeting and marketing was not working. But then the women podcast, they were like converting on this like crazy high level. And I think to me, that at least goes back to authenticity of when you have somebody that you actually feel like you have that relationship with because you listen to them 3 hours a week or whatever it is, then they're able to sell you on stuff. But then when things don't quite connect, like we were saying, there's gaps in the story, then that sale falls short. Would you agree with that? Or what would you add to that authenticity piece? Because it's almost like the cliche, cheesy thing to say of be authentic, but there's truth there, of course.
Yeah, I mean, be authentic. But if you break down kind of women podcasts, think about who are the people that are buying, who are the people in the household that buy, and who's probably listening to those women podcasts. And then the woman suggests some product that changed. Like if you go ask me, I just bought a shower head and my hair is the softest it's ever been. Everyone should go buy this shower head. How easy would that be to get a woman to go look at that shower head?
Oh, yeah. But I think to the point of watering it down, it's like to use the exact example, we're at 42 and a half minutes into this podcast. You just said that, people believe you. If we started dropping that right away, they're like, why is Jessica trying to sell me a shower head?
Over here and drop that shower head link for all the women that are listening.
Oh yeah, but actually, shoot, I'll even use the other example from this conversation of Boodle. Like we're organically talking about AI stuff, and then we go, "Hey, by the way, we use Boodle, and it's a cool thing, and he was on the podcast, and that's all fun, and that's all cool." That's a more legitimate, authentic way to bring up the reference for the product. I'm curious if there's, and maybe this goes against the idea of authenticity, but how do you bottle that up? What we're talking about of that podcast relationship, especially visual, and put that into a website that you're having that same feeling of authenticity without necessarily being overly sold to, or, how would you take that?
So that we actually have a system specifically for that. And
folks, I did not know that when I asked the question. This is organic. This is authentic.
So every client that comes through, we have a testimonial and case study framework. Because when you ask someone for their story, if you ask the client for their story, they're going to be like, they did a good job. Thumbs up. But if you take it and put your client as they are your hero, and you make the client take your clients, your prospects on their journey. It starts from the beginning to the end. It starts with, hey, who is this person? Why did they originally contact us? Why did we almost say no? Now you're getting them to state their objection. After you get them to state the objection, have them answer, now that you're working with us, how do you feel about it? Now you're verifying that that objection was not a problem anymore. From there, now they've started talking, now they're opening it up. You want to ask them, what was your biggest impact with working with us? This gets them to be very specific on the one thing, the one problem you solved. And what someone else's problem is going to be another person's problem. Lastly, you want to ask, in 5-10 years, how do you see this affecting your business? Okay. Now you're taking yourself into the future with them. There's a little bit of psychology there. And then your last question, we've done this whole series of 5 questions. Your last question is, now, if you could speak from the heart, what would you say to someone that we're talking to about looking at or using our services? That's your testimony ask. You've had them build up. You've warmed them up to give them this larger testimony of how you impacted their business.
So I was thinking on that, and it's that onboarding process and building that trust. What would you? Here's a sales thing. Here's another sales thing that I love from your experience. How many touches do you have with a client on average? In that, before you get to where let's coach to close, as Camden has been working with Kyle and learning about?
Average 2 to 3 calls. Sometimes if they are more hesitant, it's 4 to 5. But usually what I do at that point, one of my biggest objections is, why would I spend so much money with you when I can go to this web designer that works out of his garage and hire them? And so that's when I start and I take them on the full journey that they're going to go through of, hey, we're going to start here doing your discovery session. We're going to take this in. We're going to do the SEO keyword research. We're designing. We're not using a template. We're developing, and we're supporting you after. And I give them a visual of, hey, these are the different steps that we're going to be taking you through. These are the different approval points that we're going to need you to approve stuff to launch this full website to create that start of your digital ecosystem.
Yeah. That's folks, that's the difference between hiring Jessica and her team and going to some fill in the blank. Golly, I just forgot the name of that one I had to use when I built the rugby team website.
Oh gosh. Back in the day, you doing that on
WordPress. Like a bad experience from Camden's reaction.
No. I was going to say, I was just thinking how long ago that was. I'm surprised it was WordPress. I thought you were going to start talking about the old index cards for coding and whatnot.
No. That's HTML. Remember I was talking about HTML being a code. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's the differentiator though. What you just described is building that, and it, it really leads me to something I learned today, which I don't want Donnie as my neighbor because
that was fine. That was what you took mine.
No. Oh, see, that's the advantage of being the host, because Donnie's goats ain't free, and I mean, goddamn, Donnie, share your goats.
Share the goats.
It's not like they're IP. They're freaking goats, dude. Share your goats. I think I'm going to have to make a trip to Texas here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, let's do it.
Knock on Donnie's door, and we'll have a little goat talk. So
go win his hearts and minds there, Mr. Greenbrae. Get those goats out.
Right. I'm gonna inject some influence is what I'm gonna do. So Oh, damn, that's a great phrase. I got to remember that.
Inject some influence. That's a good one. That's the whiskey words right there.
Right. Camden, what'd you learn while I write that down before?
I'll talk long enough. Don't worry. No, the thing for me was talking about the people who just want the free stuff and have the walls up against any sort of upsell or any sale in the first place. And they're just going to keep taking. The Jessica, what you said of that they look for advice, whereas somebody who really wants to implement and wants to work with you looks for the process. And I think that's an eye-opening one for me.
Oh, that's great. Now, Jessica, do you want me to dance around the bush a couple of times so you can come up with one? So since I stole yours,
help.
What'd you learn?
Oh, what was that AI that you guys kept on? It started with a B.
Oh,
Boodle.
I want to go check that out.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's a fun one.
What that's all about.
But I will say, don't subscribe to it unless you let us know, because we'll send you the link. Because I want Sean to give me my $5.
I was going to say, we need that referral money because this is a very long free ad for Boodle right now.
I remember to tag him in this show when it comes out. Sean, I'm talking to you, brother. But that's great, and seriously, it is a good tool. As much crap as I'm going to give Sean for the next month or two, it is a very good tool that we enjoy using and get a lot out of. Jessica, how do folks find out how to contact you, learn more about Buzzworks and your processes of how you help people's businesses grow?
Awesome. You can go to my website, of course, Buzzworks, BUZZWKS.com. Or find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on there. Next week, I'm running a workshop. It's called the Think Big series.
What's the date of that workshop?
March 5th at 10 o'clock a.m. Central. So it's virtual. Just go find me online and you'll be able to find that event and join in on the fun. So.
Awesome. Jessica, thank you so much for your time and patience with us today, because I think we needed some patience, and we appreciate you.
Awesome. It's been fun. Thanks for having me on. And you guys, if you like this podcast, go ahead and hit subscribe and keep them top of mind.
Awesome. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And special thanks to our guest, Jessica Gruber, for joining us today. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, the full archive of episodes is available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again. We'll see you all next time.